I always find it's helpful when we think about organizations to think of them as systems. And one of the things about looking at an organization as a system is that it teaches us that there's an interconnection among people. What happens to one person impacts every other person in that organization. So I speak on a number of different topics. I speak on areas of leadership, especially interested in resilience and also with executive presence, and looking especially at presentation skills and nonverbal communication. And when you look at the bottom of some of the organizations we work in, what's really driving those organizations is anxiety. One of my most popular keynotes is on leadership resilience and really the secret ingredients that help leaders lead in anxious times. And it goes to the core of some of those ingredients. How do you deal with anxiety? How do you recognize anxiety in the organization? And as a leader, how do you respond? Because it's not quite as obvious as you think. Now, there are two different types of anxiety. The first type is acute anxiety. That's the anxiety you get when all of a sudden something happens and you go into shock. Last week, I was staying in a hotel in downtown DC. I was sound asleep, getting ready for an engagement the next morning, and I had to be there at 6:30 in the morning. And then at 3:30 in the morning, all of a sudden, next door, I hear boom, 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 boom. Police, open the door. Needless to say, I was startled. My heart was pounding. I woke up. I literally nearly hit the roof. I started sweating. Do you think I could get back and sleep again? It took a long time. However, by the next morning, I calmed down again and I was able to resume. That's acute anxiety. Chronic anxiety, however, is slightly different. Chronic anxiety is something that we develop in early childhood and it carries with us throughout our lives. And our organizations are full of chronic anxiety. Now, this form of anxiety has two qualities. The first quality is that it is contagious. You know, one of the things I say to leaders is be curious. Be curious at what you're looking at. Don't take it at face value, because very often the reality lies at a much deeper level. And especially when we're talking about what's happening in an organization and some of the behaviors, it really lies in some of the anxiety that a leader has to deal with. So some of the practical tools that I address are ways that a leader can deal with that anxiety and also keep a spirit of curiosity so that the organization they're leading is agile, is curious, and thinks out of the box. Because if it's not, we know from research that that organization is not going to be successful. Now, for a 6-year-old, an electric fence is a thing of wonder. Now, my father, who was very good at scaring the bejesus out of me, as we would say in Northern Ireland, said to me, "Now, if you ever touch that fence, I want you to know your hand will burn and drop off." And there I was sitting, willing a cow to touch it, and all of a sudden, that's what happened. A cow touched the fence. And I remember, almost like as if it was yesterday, what happened. The cow let out this weird sound and rushed right into the center of the field. And then all the other cows gathered around. Now, what's amazing about that is this. Only one cow touched that electric fence. And yet, the impact of that cow's anxiety instantaneously spread around the whole herd. All of them caught that anxiety. And that's the problem with chronic anxiety. It is caught, it is contagious. And when it is let loose in an organization, it spreads like wildfire. I really get what it's like to be a leader today. And that is not enough time and constant pressure and change daily. And so the last thing that many leaders say is, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for you. I don't have time for talks because I need to get to work. And I can assure you, I'm all about being practical, giving people tools that they can implement immediately. A journey to explore some of these incredible findings. And I'm going to do it through story. 4 separate stories which give us an insight into some of these amazing findings, and what's more, how we can use them to make our business presentations, to make our entrepreneurial efforts connect with the same passion and energy as some of those stories that we keep coming back to time and time again. I'm always surprised that leaders don't realize the influence they have. They are the ones that set the mood of an organization. And that's something I often talk about. You know, Daniel Goleman, who is the father of emotional intelligence, has this wonderful image. He says that a leader adds to this cauldron of soup that is being made each and every day in an organization. And every person adds a little bit of the flavoring. A leader's flavoring is much more intense. And depending on that flavor, it can totally overwhelm the whole cauldron of soup. There was something interesting I noticed about the 3rd week. It was whenever I walk in, Sally would smile at me, and then sometimes she would go, and other times she would go, and I was wondering, what is this? Did her team win or not win? What was she referring to? About 3 weeks later, I found out. What Sally was referring to was the mood of the boss. This would be a good day. This would not be a good day. And one of the things I noticed that as we walked through these long corridors in this building is that in the days when Sally had her thumb up, there was noise, there was laughter, doors were open, people interacted. But in those days when the thumb was turned down, the doors were shut, there was silence, there wasn't a laugh to be heard in miles. And so the question is, what mood are you sowing at work?
Hi, my name's Kevin Burke. I'm the star of Defending the Caveman here in Las Vegas. We are the longest running Broadway show in Las Vegas history. But I'm here to tell you about Irvine Nugent. He is a strong speaker, a powerful speaker, and an effective speaker. If you're in business, Irvine is the kind of person you want to be in business with.